Welcome, people coming in. Wow, I know a few of them already, but I can't follow so many names in a short time. I saw Belgium, I'm seeing Canada, I saw Cyprus.
For me, to be familiar, is the guy.
Okay. So we are live, also on YouTube now, and on Facebook. So let's see. Yeah, the people are still coming in, so we give them a moment more to enter our meeting, our convention here. And if somebody from the audience wants to say hello, just use the question and answer button below, because I switched off the chat button. It's always nice if you just make a short hello and also say from which country you are. So if there's the first one coming in. Yes. Hello from Argentina, Lucas. That's great. You got it. That's the way. Because like this, we can see the hellos. Hello from Serbia, from Igor. Maria from Argentina. Cyprus, Stalo is with us. That is fantastic. Who else? Margot from Belgium. Very welcome. Very, very welcome. Gustavo from Montreal. Wow, Canada again. Claudia from Argentina. Laura from Buenos Aires, also Argentina. Wow, we are so international. Anna from Zagreb. Craig from New Brunswick, Canada. Wow, that's great to see. Nice to see Perrin Estate. He was at Perrin Estate a few years ago, and also at Quinta do Bonfim. That's nice. Haven't been to Torres so far, so another trip to go. Kalispera from Athens. Panagiotis, that's great. Kalispera. More and more people coming in. I'm seeing Andrea, I'm seeing Arno from Berlin, I'm seeing Karin from Mosel Valley jumping in all here. This is fantastic. Wow. Renata should be Chile, I think, if I can really see the right name or do it. So in the moment when people are also still entering the classroom, I can just share the little bottom button down there in the screen. You will see this small Q&A. So if you have some questions, please type them in there, and then we can answer the questions. Most probably, we will only answer the questions at the end of the session, because that makes the flow of our conversation much easier. Andrea is greeting from Peru. Hey, Andrea. Karina from Moselle. Yeah, I've seen you already. That's great. And I'll start a little bit with a short poll, so that we, as we don't see you, you only see us, that we get a bit more information about you. It's not really personal information. It's rather, an information in which branch you work in. I just started the poll. Hotel, restaurant, catering, wine trade, education, whatever. And then from which part of the globe you are following us, because we had this session already this morning, and we had already a lot of people from Asia, Oceania. That was great to see. Then there are the questions regarding if you have visited some estates of the involved partners, which could be very interesting for us. And in how far you have experience with the wines of the involved partners. So I'm drinking a wine now this evening. This morning I was still with coffee, but no, it's not none of your wines, guys, because that would be like, oh, I have to open 3 bottles, and that will be quite funny in the end of this session. So I'm sticking to a German Riesling. Wow, people are answering like crazy. So a lot of movement in the poll. And that's good to see. And we have a lot of people watching this moment. We have only here, we have already far over 50. No, it's growing and growing. So it's difficult to say the numbers, the figures, because it's really changing all the time. And maybe also because we are so well in time. Maybe my German influence made it that we really are well in time. So I think some more 15-20 seconds, and then I will stop the poll and share the results with you. Hello from Maine. Hello, Sheila. Nice that you are with us. And Craig is checking the boxes. Yes. What I said before, if you have really questions to people of the panel, please type them in there in this question and answer or preguntas y responses or Fragen und Antworten sector, depending on the settings you have in your own computer. And we will try to answer at the most questions we can do, but most probably at the end of this session. So I will stop now the poll, and after having stopped the poll, I will share the results with you. Here we are. So we see that 30%, 31% are from other sectors, 30% are from the wine trade, 20% from hotel, restaurant, catering. We have some journalism, some freelancers, some educators. From South America, 40%. Wow, that's cool. North America, 22%. Central Europe, 24%. Middle America is also there, and the Caribbean with 2%. Eastern Europe, Middle East and Asia, Oceania. Okay, that's quite late in the night for you guys. Involved partners. Almost 50% have not been able to visit one of the estates of the involved partners. I can only recommend, as soon as we are out of the confinement, begin traveling again, begin visiting the estates, because it's always great to see the personality, to see the terroir, to meet the people directly. It's great to see, and yeah. But we can also see that far most of the people seeing us are having normal and good experience with the wines of you. So that's good that people, even if they couldn't visit the estates yet, they could taste your wines. And almost like this morning, most of the audience are alone behind the screen. Yeah, confinement, but there are also some with 2, 3, and 5 even more people. So let's get busy, or let's begin working. We had the poll now, and we all know that we are in difficult times, but we don't want to complain too much. We want to rather look positive into the future and try to make the best out of the situation. And this is also why we are doing these panels, because during isolation and confinement, it's always good to meet people, and even if it's only virtually. And sharing knowledge, what we are doing here, is one of the key points of ASI's goals. So here we are. That's what we are trying to do. We try to share knowledge also through personalities like the guys which are with us. Let me please briefly introduce the partners which are with us tonight. And this time I will go from west to east. So I will start with Dominic Symington from Grahamsport, based in Oporto. Very welcome.
Thank you.
Then we have Miguel Torres from Familia Torres, based in Penedès, near to Barcelona, from España. And last but not least, Matthieu Perrin from Famille Perrin, based near to Orange in Rhone Valley.
Bonjour
Bonsoir, Matthieu.
Bonsoir, bonjour à tous.
And there's one more guy in this round. It's Euan. He's the co-host, and he has been, or no, he is working for one of the families for many, many years. Therefore, he's very familiar also with the other two families. That's why Euan will be leading the family conversation, which will start right afterwards, and all the interaction. Euan, you want to start?
Yeah, why not? Thanks, Per. Good afternoon to everyone, and good morning to those of you in the US, Canada, and indeed South America. Good to see so many of you joining us with us today. So over the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to try and provide you all with a few new insights into these three very special family businesses, all of which, as it happens, are members of an international association called the Primum Familiae Vini, PFV for short. And I'm sure many of you are aware of this association. It's made up of 12 families who are all aim to defend and promote the traditions and values of family-owned companies. So I thought it would make sense to start this conversation with a question about managing a family business. Now, I know that all of you are closely involved with working together with other family members on a day-to-day basis. And I thought that, that our audience would love to understand a little bit more about how you guys divide the responsibilities amongst family members, ensure good decision-making, of course, and perhaps most interesting of all, maintaining the peace. Dominic, at Symington, you work with 10 other members of your family, 6 of which are from the 5th generation and have joined the business in the last 2 years. So perhaps I could start with you.
Well, the best thing is the younger members of the family tell me what to do now. So, but I think we're all told what to do by our children as we grow older. I think working in a family business is there's something very special. In one respect, there is very little difference from working in a family business than in another business, because you have to respect the opinions of other people and you have to take them into consideration. I think what tends to happen in a family business is that the passion and the intensity of wishing to do well is perhaps stronger. How do you find what job does each person do? I think that's a natural, it tends to be a sort of a natural, people fall into their place quite naturally. We as a family have a rule that everybody should work independently and outside the family business for a number of years, be it with in the wine business elsewhere, or be it in some completely different type of industry. So I think largely you find where your strengths are beforehand in any case. So from that point of view, I mean, there's the other advantage of in a family business is that you inherit and that you get passed on a huge amount of information, comes from the previous generations down through the new and the younger members as they come in. But partly also we're being groomed right from when we're children to learn about the business. And although we're not aware that we are being taught by our parents and our uncles and our aunts, as they take us into the vineyards when we're children, as they take us into the wineries as we're children, we're learning all the time. And so it's just become, it's just a natural evolution.
Thanks, Dom. I think, you know, it must be nice that sort of naturally falling into something that the role that suits. It seems to be the sort of the best way of getting to find out what, or to do the sort of job that you end up by doing, rather than actually being told to do that.
Yeah, I think that there is that, but I mean, there is no doubt that in a family business, a family business cannot afford to have somebody that doesn't actually give 110% of their effort all the time. I mean, it's a family business is I mean, it's your life and your responsibility. because we view it ourselves, and I know that Miguel and Matthieu and other family wine businesses, you know, to a large degree, we are only caretakers. We are looking after the business at the moment. We inherited it from our parents, but we have an obligation to pass it on to the next generation in a better, or at least in the same condition that we inherited it, hopefully in a better condition than when we inherited it from our previous generation. So I and my cousins and my brother, we don't consider ourselves the owners of this business. We're looking after it for the family.
Thanks, Dom. Matthieu, as one of 9 members of your family working in the business and spanning over 2 generations, how do things work at Perrin in this way?
This is a difficult question, and it's very difficult to explain. I mean, we don't learn about how to work together. You know, it's happened. It was we have been all experienced different job or make different works before we joined the family company. And for people from outside, it's sometimes very difficult to understand. You know, as you say, we are at Famille Perrin, we are 9 Perrin working at the propriety, and I think it's really unique. And we love that. Sometimes it's not easy, but that means at the end, you know, you have always a Perrin in the vineyards, in the cellar, on the market. And of course, we can change each other to another one, you know. And being 9 finally in a family winery, it's very important to secure the philosophy of the family at every levels. Because in the wine, you are absolutely never satisfied. And you have to really pay attention about every levels. And doing that in a family, having one member which is responsible of the philosophy, which is the philosophy of family, is nothing else than other philosophy of other company. It's family. It's about for Perrin about simplicity, you know, authenticity, express, of course, the verity of the terroir, independency, and if possible, excellency. And so being 9, finally, you know, believe me, it's never enough for doing all of these things. But I'm sure this unique way to work with my father, uncle, brothers, and cousin is definitively part of the success of Famille Perrin Chateau de Beaucastel. And as I said for the first session this morning, it's always what we say in a family, you know, Famille Perrin, being part of the Famille Perrin is first family and after Perrin. So it's first the family is always before the people themselves, you know.
Thanks, Matthieu. As you say, never easy. These things aren't always easy. But you guys seem to make it work. So you're obviously working in the right way. Miguel, at Torres, you work with 6 other members of your family, again, spanning over 2 generations. How does it work at Torres?
Well, for us now is a sweet moment on the sense that we have the 4th generation, which is my father, my aunt, and my uncle, and they have really a lot of experience, which in the world of wine is great, no? But at the same time, we have also the 5th generation, the new generation, which is my sister. There's also Cristina, who is in California, and me here in Spain. And I think that the combination of both is really great, no? Because young people always bring a bit more of innovation. They want to challenge the status quo a bit, no? And I think that this combination with experience, it's always very, very, very positive. We divide a bit our jobs into different fields, no? Like my father now, he's very focused on the project of the climate change. I have to credit him because he was the one that really pointed this problem already a long time ago, you know, and he could do it because he had the experience of many years. The new generation could not do that because we cannot remember about the vines 50 years ago because we were not born, no? So My father is very dedicated to the winery still, and my sister is very much in charge of research. She's doing a great project about recovering ancestral varieties. And, you know, I think that most of the times working with the family is great. It has always some moments, you know, of conflict or discussion, but this is normal. It happens to any family, and also happens into a wine family. It happened with my grandfather and my father with the Massa Plana, and sometimes it happens to us, no? But I tend to think that when the new generation, when you want to do something, when you have clear ideas, like, you know, we are planting new vineyards in the Priorat now in higher altitude, or doing things that the previous generation did not do it. If they say no, you have to say yes, you know, because this is your time and you have to do the things that you have to do. Very important.
Thanks, Miguel. I think, yeah, harnessing the experience of previous generations and having that opportunity to learn from the previous generations is such an important aspect to all three of you. You touched on, Miguel, you touched on climate change and the way that your father had been so involved in pointing your business towards tackling that. The second area that I wanted to cover this evening is about that. And we know that the effect of climate change is particularly challenging for producers who are working in some of the more warmer climes of this world. So, Miguel, you being at the forefront of this area, how are you dealing with this, and what sort of effect, if any, will this have on the styles of the future Torres wines?
Well, for us, actually, this is the most important project that we have, on the sense that we have to fight against the climate change, and we have to prepare ourselves, no? Because the latest predictions is that if we don't do something like as human beings, no, a very important change, the temperatures could rise at the end of the century by 4 or 5 degrees, no? So you have to think that, you know, of course, you know very well that vines are very sensitive. Just 1 or 2 degrees of media temperature can really change the profile of the wine, no? So on that side, we approach this problem into 2 ways. The first one would be how to make vineyards and wineries to be more sustainable. And I'm not talking just organic viticulture, I'm talking about the carbon footprint, no? How do we make it that we produce less carbon footprint in our vineyards and our wineries? During the past years, since 2008, we have reduced approximately 30% our carbon footprint per bottle. And now we're already setting challenges with an association that we are part of, this International Wineries for Climate Action, to reach 50%, no? So this is something very, very important. And the other side is how we adapt, no? Because of course, we'll have to make more muscle selection in the places where we already have vineyard. Sometimes we're finding ancestral varieties that were used in the past when the climate was warmer that can adapt today and make better wines for the future. And also finding new places, like going to the Pyrenees or to the top mountains of the Priorat or to the Patagonia in Chile, to try to find new places that in the future probably will be great wine regions. So there are many, many ways, but it's a working process. But what I'm glad is that more and more people are aware and trying to take action about this.
Miguel, you mentioned this morning, and you mentioned again, the importance of adapting your business. And I think it seems to be so important that for those of us those businesses that will continue is to realize that and adapt your thinking and the way that you challenge yourselves over the coming years and indeed generations. Thanks, Miguel. Dominic, if I move to you, I know that you have recently taken an important step in becoming the first Portuguese wine company to gain B Corp accreditation. So I imagine that you've already seen quite a lot of change in this area.
Well, yeah, thank you. Well, yes and no. To be honest, I mean, B Corp is extraordinarily demanding on the requirements for a company to become associated to B Corp. And B Corp, for those who are not, it's something that is much more, well, is better known in North America at the moment, but is becoming more well known around the world. It's a policy where one actually structures one's company to also take in sustainable and social responsibility on an equal basis to running a business and profitability. So it's much broader. We were quite surprised actually quite how much of what we had been doing as a family business historically and traditionally was actually relevant to the B Corp requirements. And although it is a permanently improving requirement that one must do so, it is something that we're already doing, whereby our social responsibilities to all our staff and the community with whom we live and work is as important as our business ventures and the management. So that was very clear. At the same time, we have felt that I agree with Miguel. I mean, we are working very actively. We are a partner with them in the International Wineries for Climate Action, of reducing our carbon footprint. We haven't got quite as far as Miguel has, but we have managed to reduce our carbon footprint by 25%. Over the last 7 or 8 years. We're working very hard, and we've made a commitment to reduce that by to reduce it to 50% in the relatively short term. And it's very important because climate change, people, as Miguel says, people believe that the vine is an incredibly hardy and resistant plant. It isn't. It's actually incredibly susceptible to this very variable and this climate change, the erratic climate that we have, rather than the sort of the more stable 4 seasons of the year. And so we need to work to do our small part, and hopefully everybody else in the world can do a little bit to change this, because there is no doubt that we won't have the same ability to feed the world or to produce nice wines for the world if we carry on like this. We're working also similarly doing massal selection, finding older grape varieties, the ones that have perhaps been a bit forgotten, that maybe will be more resistant to temperature change. We started doing quite a lot of research in the middle 90s of different rootstock matching with the different grape varietals to see if they were better suited to the harsher conditions and the less water. There was a point that all of us discussed this morning, which was irrigation. Water is a finite produce that we have on this planet, and irrigation is not the solution to our problems of climate warming or the general climate warming. So there is an awful lot that we need to do. We're studying carbon capture during vinification. And I forgot to mention this morning, but something that Matthieu mentioned, we are in the process of also building a LEED, a LEED, so an environmentally sustainable winery at the moment that'll be self-controlling in its temperature, it'll be self-energy sufficient, it'll be able to recycle about 70% of the water usage, because we have to do these with our wineries to as part of our responsibility to the environment upon which, as grape farmers, upon which we live.
Thanks, Dom. I mean, clearly lots going on, and I would imagine that now that given that you're farming in the largest mountain vineyard region in the world, that these climate change effects can be pretty dramatic, and it's good to understand some of the things that you guys are doing. I mean, moving from a mountainous area to a somewhat different environment where wind, we were hearing this morning from Matthieu, the power of the Mistral and of course the intense heat that you have to deal with. I'm sure that you have much to share on this subject, Matthieu.
Yeah, well, I'm fully agree about what Dominic and Miguel say. We are definitively all concerned about global warming. Today, it's a reality. Yesterday, the previous generation were adapt to that. They didn't really understand what they were to do, what they was doing, sorry. But today, with the scientific, it's much more easy to follow. And, in the wines, because we look to the weather change every day, we're among the first to see and to be able to adapt our works to reduce as possible this impact to our vineyards, to our wines. What we see, as I said this morning, is the peak, especially in the south of France. The extreme, the peak, and the down are higher and smaller. I mean, when it's getting rain, we have more rain than ever, for sure. And when it's getting hot or dry, it's drier than ever. So, wines is about long term. So we have to react quickly for that if we want to make something nice for the new generation. And something that you can do quickly is to look for a vineyard, of course, more in the north. We were lucky to have Jacques Perrin, my grandfather. We really understood very early and adapt the vineyard of Beaucastel against that, because he planted vineyards in the extreme north of limit of Châteauneuf-du-Pape. We are in Beaucastel, the property which is most of the north from the appellation. And being by the north, of course, we have cooler climate over there. And we have this Mistral, you mentioned it. We have more or less Mistral 100 days a year. So the Mistral is the wind which is blowing from the north to the south. We are organic farming and definitively believe that organic is helping to fight against the global warming by bringing the roots as deep as possible in the soil. We have a different variety of grapes, even 13 grape variety in Châteauneuf-du-Pape that we still blend together for Beaucastel, and we can really we can play with all of this variety to potentially keep the balance, which is so important in our wines. And from all the 13 grape variety, we use a specific variety that Jacques Perrin was falling in love about it, which is Mourvèdre, when most of the other producers use Grenache. And Mourvèdre, it's originally from Bandol. And over there in Beaucastel, we are really much in the north limit of ripeness of Mourvèdre. So, you have to take some risk. You have to be on the border to fight against this global warming. And you have, as Dominic said, you have also to change your everyday consumption. You have to reduce the water consumption because it's absolutely not a solution. We are building a new winery we are rebuilding Beaucastel starting in beginning of October. And we are thinking really to use what we get over there to reduce this impact by using the water from the rain, the sun, and the wind. And so everything is there, is free, and we have to use it day after day.
Thanks, Matthieu. I was just thinking when you were talking that it's so good to see, and it probably touches slightly on what Miguel was saying about passing on, using the experience of previous generations in the work that Jacques Perrin started. That is clearly that you 2 generations later are working strongly on and continue to develop. Having touched on 2 very important aspects, family and indeed climate change, I just thought that we would move a little bit lighter and perhaps move a little bit closer to the product itself. I've always believed that it's important that as a wine producer, that one should make time to enjoy other people's wines from other regions or indeed other countries. So Matthieu, is there one wine producing region or country outside your own that you are particularly fond of, and perhaps you'd explain to all of us why?
Yeah, it's a very difficult answer. It's a good question, but definitely a difficult answer. We have good friends everywhere in the world. and we like to share with them good wines. You know, we like wine which are expressed from their terroir, which have authenticity, which are specific for the place where they are come from. And I was really thinking for a long time about this question, and it brings me to celebrations that I've so many times in my family, as well, large family, as you know, and we have always a good excuse finally to celebrate anything. As I remember, and every time we have a bottle of champagne, I mean, for sure. We have many other wines after champagne, but from all over the world. But for sure, for beginning or to continue or to finish lunch or dinner, we'll open a champagne bottle to celebrate a family celebration. So champagne, for sure, it's unique. We love the minerality of champagne, especially in the south of France, you know, and from Champagne, I mean, you have so many good producers. It's just impossible to say anything about one more than another one. But for sure, I will not. We have always a bottle of Paul Roger from the Brut, or sometimes with some Churchill, of course, which are different. Paul Roger of Primum Famille Vini. We love Champagne from every producer, like Aigli Aurier, of course. Or Pierre Peters at Ménil-sur-Oger for their Blanc de Blanc. I mean, bubble in Champagne is absolutely unique, and it's always on the table of the family, for sure.
Thanks, Matthieu. I couldn't agree more. Champagne is a fantastic way of starting and enjoying a moment with friends and family. The only thing I would say is that you always need to drink it in magnums, because the bottle is just far too small.
Agree with you.
May I move over to Miguel? Actually, Matthieu, you said that this was going to be a difficult question. I felt it's even more difficult for poor Miguel. With your involvement with so many different wine regions around the world, I believe that you're involved in 9 different DOs in Spain, and that excludes your family involvement in Chile and California. So I thought this would be more difficult for you than the others. But where would you go if you had if you were going outside your own wine regions?
This is a difficult question, no? Because you know there are so many marvelous wine regions. You know, almost every one region has its own secrets and wines that are interesting to try and to enjoy. You know, but when my friends ask me this, I always tell them that the wines that I prefer most of the times are the wines that are made by families. No, I like to know the person who is behind the wine and know his face, his family, and this always gives me a sense of legacy. No, that we are enjoying a wine that is made by people who understand the soil, the terroir. No, so this is something important to me. And then, well, as an anecdote, what I can say is that lately I'm trying some wine from Georgia. I'm very interested on the origins of wine. You know that we have been working in this project, recovering the ancient varieties in Catalonia. And this led me to this small book that is called Ancient Wine by Patrick McGovern. And it's a great book that talks about the history of wine. And Georgia has a lot of part of that, and also opens your mind to understand wine from a perspective that is maybe a bit less rational, but also at the same time more with the heart, and that to me it has a lot of sense. Anyway, right now, just as an anecdote, I'm enjoying a very nice bottle of Graham's Vintage Port 2000. Great vintage. Well done, Dominic.
Thank you.
Thanks, Miguel. Actually, we'll move to Dominic now. And I know that, Dominic, you started your working career in the UK wine trade, where I'm absolutely sure that you must have tasted many great and interesting wines from around the world. So does any particular region strike a special chord with you?
I thought long and hard about this question of yours, Euan, and And actually, very much like Miguel and Matthieu have said, I think it's virtually impossible to select one wine out of all others. I think one can always talk about wines that have marked us and have been quite remarkable and extraordinary. But for me as a winemaker, the pleasure I get from speaking to friends of mine, and particularly family-made wineries and winemakers, the pleasure of hearing them speak about their terroir, speak about their grape varieties, speak about the passion and the message that they are trying to get through of the wines they make, that is as interesting as what is in the glass, because the story is so important. And as Miguel said very nicely, you know, if it is a family that has been doing this for a few generations, there's something very special about the wines that they make. And I find it fascinating as one travels around the world. We're very lucky that one can visit winemakers in pretty much any country in the world. And one understands, one learns new things, one meets new grape varieties, one meets new styles and flavors of wine. I think that is, for me, the greatest pleasure of part of one of the great pleasures of what we do. I was very lucky to start in the wine trade in the UK, because in those days, the world, it was many years ago, but I'm very, very old. London was definitely the center of the world wine trade in the middle 1970s. And so I was very lucky that I started my wine trade career there, because it immediately gave me a very, very broad view of the wine. I knew the Douro Valley, I knew northern Portugal, but I didn't actually have very much knowledge of the rest of the wine world. And so I was very grateful that my father sent me to learn the wine business in England, in the UK, before coming back to work with he and the rest of my family here in Portugal. Probably that there are a couple of anecdotes that sort of spring to mind. Is that the wine was relatively young at the time, but one of the years, I know exactly when it was 1976, it was my birthday, and my boss said, would you go and get a bottle of wine from the cellar and will you decant it? So I did as I was told, and I decanted it. I tasted the wine to make sure that it was in good condition. And then he said, now you're going to come and have lunch with me and some of the other buying wine team, because it's your birthday today and we're going to drink the wine. It was Ducru 1961. It was quite young, but it was a wine that I think probably showed me when I was young myself quite what great wine can be. And from then on, I've used it as a bit of a sort of as a yardstick for the rest of my wine career. There is another type of wine that I do like, I adore, and which are it might be because of my origins drinking port wine, which are rich and sweet wines with intensity. I absolutely adore sweet white wines, be they the Riesling family or be they Sauternes. I just think that they're just magnificent wines. And I think that particularly if you get a Riesling, you've got something that is so fine and so delicate, yet at the same time has such an unbelievable intensity of flavor and complexity. I think that they're just wonderful. But in reality, any bottle of wine, no matter how expensive or how cheap it is, I always find them really interesting and really enjoy them.
Thanks, Dom. It sounds like you guys should get together and have a bit of a party. And perhaps some of us might be able to get invited. Let's move on to the final question, and that's really just like I know that the three of you have got some interesting things for us all to look forward to over the next 6 months or even to a year. So, Dom, while you're on, could you possibly share what you've got?
Well, first I'm going to show you what I'm going to drink tonight for supper. Probably more, I don't know if I can get that onto the screen to see, but it's Chateau Beaucastel 2001 Hommage à Jacques Perrin. Matthieu, thank you very much indeed, because I know that it is a magnificent wine and is certainly up there with one of those that marks one as to drinking something very special in the future. The wine that I'd like to present to everyone to have a look at today is something, this year is quite a special year in my family's history. It's our Graham's Port Wine Company is, it's the 200th anniversary of the company this year. And regrettably, due to the COVID situation, the pandemic, that is terrible situation that is happening in the world at the moment, we've had to cancel all our activity. But we are going to continue with the launch of one wine that we have released, that we are releasing, is that the company itself is 200 years old, but our current existing wine cellars that we still use now, they were rebuilt, they were built in their current form in 1890, so exactly 100 years ago. So we've got a bicentenary and a centenary celebration. And the cellars were built in 1890, and we are releasing a wine from 1990 now, and it's a Jeroboam, so 4.5 litre bottle of wine, and we are releasing that now exclusively in Jeroboams, an exclusive for the restaurant trade. The wine is absolutely delicious. It's wonderful. It's been sitting in the cellar since 1990. It's been bottled now this January, and it'll be being released as we speak into the global restaurant business. So it's wine only for sommeliers, only in the restaurant trade.
Thanks, Dom. I thought you were going to say you were going to drink that all tonight, but that's 4.5 liters.
I had suggested it, but I was told I wasn't allowed to.
Matthieu, I know that you've also got a very special project that is in hand that, that you shared with us this morning. Perhaps you could share with us again.
Yeah, but first, as Dominic, I will tell you the bottle that I'm drinking now, which is Mas de la Plana 2004 from Penedès, absolutely unique. I opened it this morning, and I'm very enjoying to finishing my day with these wines. You know, it keeps me smile for sure. Regarding, yes, there's a new launching. I mean, it's still a little bit a secret and confidential, but you know, Famille Perrin is partner at Miraval since 2012, and we make a premium rosé since that over there. We have been trying to push the category of rosé as far as possible, and to show that rosé finally can compete some best red or best white, you know. And sometimes it's not because you make a good red or good white that you make a good rosé. It's completely different job. We usually say it's like a patisserie chef versus a main chef in a restaurant. You know, they are working together in the same kitchen, but of course the main chef doing the completely different job as the patisserie chef, and vice versa, you know. And patisserie chef became very unique and very well known now, like rosé in a way, which has changed a lot these last 8 years. And finally, from this experience, you know, from rosé up there, we will launch a champagne rosé to create the first and only house of champagne, which will produce only and exclusively champagne rosé. So it's very exciting for us. It will be a very small house champagne winery. We'll be launching this champagne rosé, this house, before the end of the years. And for that, we decided to make a partnership with Rudolf Peters from Champagne Pierre Peters in Ménil-sur-Oger. And as I said, we want to push the quality of champagne rosé as far as possible, as it has never been done in the past, by focusing only about rosé champagne. So let's see in the future what we can show you. But from now, we can tell more about that.
Wow, Matthieu, thanks very much. And how exciting that's going to be to see that on the market at some stage. And finally, Miguel, I know that you've also got a very exciting new project in the pipeline that you shared with us this morning.
Yeah, I just want to comment, like Dominic, we were also going to celebrate an anniversary, our 150th anniversary But Dominic will have to celebrate it next year. It will be all right. We'll even open more bottles there. But anyway, yeah, this is a very personal project. I don't know if you can see very much the label here, but it's called Pazo Torre Penelas. This is a single vineyard that is located in Rías Baixas in Galicia. And it's a state that it dates from the 15th century, and it has very old vines of Albarino, the local grape there, of course, planted in very granitic soils. No, so this is a very unique place in the Municipio de Portas, and here we wanted to recover a bit the ancient way that the wines were done in the past in Rías Baixas. So we were able to create the first eggs made with granite, with rocks of granite. No, so we have made eggs that are more or less of 800 liters, and they are 4x4 pieces. So there we carry out the fermentation and part of the aging of this wine. And it's very interesting because you know that the Albarino on a natural basis has this freshness from the Atlantic, but this process also of the fermentation in granite increases a certain sense of salinity that makes the wine very, very interesting. And to me, the most important thing is that we are recovering a tradition that was lost many, many years ago. And this is the first wine doing that. No, it's a very small production, only 2,000 bottles, but it's very much in my heart, and and these are the first bottles. No, so I'm very happy about that. I hope that we can all share together.
Thanks, Miguel. And so lots to look forward to, which is always good news. This brings us to the end of this part of the session. I'd like to thank all three of you for giving as much insights into the way you see the world and the way you run your family businesses. And I'd like to pass on to Perrin now, who will continue the conversation.
Yes, thank you very much, Euan. It was really incredible again to hear the three of you mainly speaking about your point of views, your experiences, your terroir. I'm really fascinated. Even I heard it now the second time, but it was not one-to-one the same as in the morning. It was the same idea, but expressed in different ways, and it's really very interesting. You are all well-established wine families with generations of experience and knowledge and so on. And you're all exporting in many countries all over the world with huge success. What is the important idea of you to create this link with ASI, which we are having? Dominic, may I ask you this question first?
I think that there's a natural relationship. At the end of the day, I think we make wines. We produce our wines hopefully for people to have pleasure when they drink the wine. We need to work closely with sommeliers in the restaurants who have the knowledge, they have the passion, they love wines as we do, and they communicate to the consumer, and they have the opportunity to introduce the wines to the consumers, the end consumer, the people who sit in their restaurants and eat the wonderful meals and food when they go out. And part of the experience that the sommelier can enhance that experience by giving them advice, by helping them, suggesting that they try something that they may be a little bit less likely to go and choose on their own because it is not their normal, the typical wine that they would normally drink. And the knowledge and the experience that the sommelier can communicate through to the final consumer is very important. So they are so much our natural partners in this wonderful business that is the wine world.
Very nicely said. Thank you very much, Dominic. Miguel, what is your impression? What is your idea with this connection to ASI, to the sommeliers in general? Miguel, you got me?
It's a bit frozen. Okay. No, you know, to me, well, many, of course, most of the sommeliers have been visiting wineries and know a lot about vineyards, and they know how hard it is actually make terroir wine, no? How much time we have to dedicate, how many, you know, how many conversations are around there, how much work is there, no? So at the end of the day, this message for us is so important, and the sommelier is the last person, is the person who is going to talk with the final wine lover, and is going to tell this message. No, I would say that without the work of the sommelier, you know, all these terroir wines, they would be homeless. You know, they would not have someone to really help giving this story. No. To me also, I remember a lot the stories of my grandfather, how he explained me when I was a kid, how he had to go through many countries around the world to meet the sommeliers, the international sommeliers, while in Spain still on those times there was not many sommeliers introducing the Torres wine. No? So basically our wines, our name has been built thanks to all these people, that they have been loyal and they have deliver this message of the family. So I just can say thank you very much.
Thank you for the wine families to produce such wines with a lot of passion, so that we in the sommelier can share it with our guests. Matthieu, what is your impression about the connection between sommeliers and wine families?
You know, between my brothers, cousin, father, and uncle, and myself, it really did not happen a day before without having a contact, a relation with the sommelier at the winery, you know, by phone or by email. I mean, we are every day in contact with them, and we love to discuss with them about the vision about wines. Because, you know, we produce wines to drink with food. I mean, we are wine lovers as much as we are food lovers. I mean, it's really something important for us. It's why we created a small restaurant which is named Lustre in Gigondas. It was to bring also the wine at the center of the tables, because the wines and the food is absolutely indivisible. I mean, wines, when it's bottled, you definitively can't change it. It's too late. I mean, but the food, you can adapt, you can change, you can put a little bit of salt, a little bit more of curry, whatever, to highlight the wine and food pairing. And if you are lucky, to find kind of complementarity and a kind of harmony. So obviously our wines are mostly sold in restaurants. And we go a lot in restaurants, believe me. We made a lot of sommelier there. Most of them, you know, it became friends. I mean, sometimes we don't speak the same language, but we definitively have the same culture, the culture of the wines. And it's pretty easy, you know, with the sommelier and us most of the time, you know, because it's like if we have met for many times before, even if it's the first time. So the role of the sommelier, it's completely central for us. I mean, we are all part of the same world, I would say. So being part of IC, it was natural, it was evident to thankful all these women and men which are representing as an ambassador every day. Our wine, of course, but much more. I mean, the wine in general, and educate people about what is family wines and what is the terroir behind.
Thank you so much, Matthieu, for these brilliant words on sommelier and on ASI. Thank you so much also, Dominic and Miguel. I had a few more questions, but if I see all the questions from the audience, I think we'll switch to them, because I think it is much more interaction going to the questions which have been raised up. So we have a question. Apart from making beautiful wines, dear Miguel, for us to enjoy, they also have the Familia Torres Foundation that gives back to society all around the globe. The viewer says that is an excellent philosophy. Could you just say a few words about this Torres Foundation, Miguel?
Yes, well, you know that at the end of the day, for us, the world, you know, the wine lovers have give us so much, you know, to get to the point where we are. That a long time ago we decided, already in the times of my grandmother, that we wanted to give back to the society, and we believe that the best way to give back is to work with the new generation, with children, because these are the ones that really can change things. No? So every single year we put part of our profits in order to build schools or to bring kids, you know, from the street to the schools and later on to the universities. And well, it is something that we prefer not to advertise anything, and it has nothing to do with wine. It's something that we, in our heart, we believe on that, no? And that's what we are doing. Actually, my sister Mireia, she's now the president of this foundation.
Wow, so it's the combination of passion and profession, just to give back some of what we have received so far. Thank you so much, Miguel.
Thank you.
And then there's a question from Tilman, which he put on Facebook. Is it easier to produce good wines today, or was it easier in the past? Tricky questions. Matthieu, what would you say about that?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's much more simple. I mean, today, for making good wines, for making terroir wines, I think it didn't change too much. But for making good wines, you know, it's much more easy today. You have good wines everywhere in the world. We are talking about that this morning, but as a wine lover, you probably test wines every month, every week, every day. It's happened, and you will discover that you have good wine in Chile, in Argentina, in Spain, in France, in Italy, in Portugal, and many other places in the world. I mean, of course, because the techniques, the scientific came over there today, and in the past they were not there, and they applied kind of less and more knowledge in the vineyards, and they are able to reduce the risk in the vineyards. Mm-hmm. And it's like an insurance, you know, to reduce the risk. But wines, terroir wines, is more than just reducing the risk. It's just the opposite, in fact. It's to take some risk. And you have to be always in the border limit to make something exceptional. You know, sometimes you are too close and you fail and you miss it. But when you accomplish it, you need to be just in the border. We always say that, you know, it's border limit between being genius or crazy. Sometimes you have to be a little bit crazy to be genius. And I would say it's definitively more easy to make a good wines, but a grand vin, a vin of terroir, a vin which gives you emotion, this is only family, and it's definitively not something that you can learn in a book. So it didn't change so much for that.
Thank you, Matthieu. So in the Rhone Valley, difficult to say, but yeah. How about in Douro Valley, Dominic? Do you think it's getting easier?
I would completely agree with Matthieu. I think that we're very lucky today. The knowledge we have, the scientific knowledge we have of viticulture, the growing and managing our vineyards, the equipment and the knowledge we have in the wineries today, for what I would call commercial wines, there is frankly no excuse for bad wine. I would go the other way. I would say that if somebody makes bad wine today, you should congratulate them because they've had to work very hard to do so. It sounds like a crazy thing to say, but there is no excuse with the knowledge we have today but here I speak of commercial wines, to make terroir wine that Miguel and Matthieu, in particular, Matthieu was mentioning, it is as difficult today as it was in the past, because to make great wines, you really have to push yourself to your limit every time, and you are always taking yourself right to the edge, because you're always trying to do better. We are never satisfied with our best wines. And we are fortunate that we are recognized in some of our wines, and as is Miguel and Matthieu and many of our friends around the world, for making top wines, but we always want to try to make them a little bit better. We always try to push a bit more. So to make great terroir wines is as difficult today as it was in the past. To make commercial wines is definitely a very different game.
Very good point, Dominic. Miguel, this morning you told us that you are already going into the Pyrenees with the vineyards. So is this also regarding the quality of the wines, to recap this?
Well, with the climate change, what we were talking before, the one of the important problems is that the ripening is coming earlier, sooner and sooner, no? So this is a problem, because of course we get more sugars before the actual skin is fully ripe, no? And also the acidity tends to drop, no? So on that side, talking about that there's a possibility of finding new places. During the past years, we have gone to places where viticulture did not exist, or it exists on an ancient past, but it was not anymore there, no? Like in the highest Pyrenees, no? So we have, for example, vineyards planted in the Pyrenees at 1,200 meters high, and I can tell you that that these grapes are ripening very well, and they are already giving us excellent quality, and is outside any appellation. I can tell you that, for example, on the Priorat, this winter, I just planted a couple of hectares on what is going to be the highest vineyard in the Priorat at 750 meters high in slate soil, no? A place where many years ago, the people abandoned that site because it was too cold, no? Mm-hmm. Well, now it's warm enough so that we can make wine again, no? So there's obviously an adaptation, and we want to be there, no? Because I would like my kids, if they want to make wine, to be able to make wines in the places where we are, and also in some new places, no?
Thank you. So again, we are back to the family. You want to do something for your kids also, and this reflects very well, I think, this family idea. Axel from Germany sent in a question. Since all the undertakings cost money, is a raise in the wine prices inevitable? Probably, for sure, the prices will raise, like consuming prices raise every year, step by step. What do you think, Dominic? Is this project you're doing affecting the cost much more, or?
Well, like from our perspective, we always take this in a long-term vision, no? So on that side, of course, is an investment, but we are not gonna make the wine lovers to pay for it, on the full side. This is land that I hope that it will stay in my family for many generations, no? So I hope that more and more we can start seeing these wines that are really, really particular, and especially on the side of the acidity and on the freshness, no? Mm-hmm. There is one variety in particular called Perrin that we found it in the footsteps of the Pyrenees, that to me today is the best variety that we are working with in that area, no? And probably maybe next year we will be able to taste some of the first wines of this variety.
I'm really looking forward to tasting something like that. Dominic, what do you think about raising the price, or do the price will raise because of all the projects you are doing?
No, I think it's too. I think it's. I mean, with all due respect, I think it's quite a simplistic view of the matter. I think that you know, we as family wine businesses, we have been investing in our vineyards and in the knowledge and our businesses for generations as it is. Because a family business, a family wine business is it's a way of life. And so a very significant part of our business, and as Miguel said, he wants the vineyards that he's planting today to be there for his grandchildren. And I know that is exactly the same question with Matthieu and his family, with mine, and with many other, and most other family wine businesses. Our view has always been long-term. So we're not investing significantly more or significantly less than we have been doing throughout the generations. And so in our business model is to invest in the security and the strength of the long-term company. I mentioned this morning that I don't see myself as one of the owners of my family business. I mean, my name is on the paper. That is fine, but I'm a caretaker. I was handed the responsibility of this business by my father and my uncles and my aunts, and I have the responsibility to pass it on to my children and my grandchildren, nephews and nieces, in a better condition than I received it. And so our business is to invest in the long-term benefit of the family winemaking business, and not to make a quick buck to put in our pocket. Because if you think about most family businesses, generally there's very little arrogance in the winemakers. They're normally humble people. We live by the land and we want to stay living like that. Our vineyards are our friends, and that's where we wish to spend our time and live with them.
That is very good to hear, Dominic. So yeah, thank you so much. I have here a nice question, which I think is perfect for Matthieu. It is sent in by Panagiotos. I think he was from Athens or from Cyprus, so somewhere down there. For the guests, one question. How will affect their wines or the old world wines the fact that the New World wines adopt terroir in their character? So, as I understand, the New World is here and there trying to copy the Old World. And does this affect your style of wines, Matthieu?
Absolutely not. I mean, you know, it's about long-term wines. I think we make wines better than ever. We are never satisfied in the wine, so we can always improve something, especially again with the family. It was a lot about family tonight, but it's what is it about? And I'm not really looking at old world versus new world. I mean, we are one lover, and we are, some of us, you know, invest or passionate about terroir outside Europe, and you discover that you have some very specific, beautiful place. I mean, but terroir is not just about soil or variety of grapes. It's about women and men. We were clever enough, crazy enough, or genius enough to highlight this terroir, to make potentially a grand vin. And when you are talking about that, you don't think that the world, you know, versus another one. I mean, you just don't need to compare it. You just have to make addition of that.
Thank you, Matthieu. That's yeah. I think terroir is not able to be copied, and especially terroir and the own soul, the own heart. There's no way of copying it, and it's good that you keep all the three of you keep your way of doing your things.
Outside that, you know, you have to follow also the local variety. I mean, this is very important, Miguel. Well, we're talking about local variety, and I think this is also the DNA of what is about terroir. And you're right to say that DNA, by definition, like human, you can't copy any DNA. It's just impossible, and it's even very dangerous. And I think everybody have to find their own DNA to make potentially something great.
Right. Another nice question. This time it's from Nydia from the Dominican Republic. Do you think the quarantine has been in favor for the 2020 harvest? Because now you can dedicate more time to the vineyards. What do you think about that, Miguel or Dominic?
Miguel.
Well, you know, through this, that as we cannot travel so much, this is the part that I'm enjoying the most. You know, that I happen to spend more time in the vineyards. No, but of course, at the end of the day, this depends on many other factors. No, we are just people, but to the vineyards, the climate, the weather conditions are very, very important. No, and what is going to happen from now until September, October is still something that we don't know, no? So anyway, I would say that on 2020, one of the positive things is that we could spend even more time in the vineyards, and that's not bad.
That's good to hear. And a nice question from Buenos Aires, especially for you, Dominic. The port which you will release and you showed us before, is it thought to go to the international market also, to Argentina?
If they would like it in Argentina, I'm sure we can find a way to get it to Argentina. But yes, it is to be released in the international global markets, yes.
I'm sure that Walter will be very happy hearing this.
Yeah.
And Claire from Belgium is asking Matthieu regarding the rosé champagne, rosé de Seigneur or d'assemblage for Miraval?
We'll do for you talk about champagne or Miraval in Provence.
Sorry, the Miraval.
Yes, we do both. Depending on the variety. You know, we try to express the freshness, the minerality of the rosé from Provence, and we have something very specific in Miraval Provence. We have man from Kuiper, and this man of Kuiper is something that you also find in some Grand Cru from Schönenbourg in Alsace or some other place. It brings something very pure, very fresh, and even kind of salty character, you know, at the end, lovely minerality. And for that, we have a beautiful variety, which is Roll grapes that we blend. So it's a white variety, it's known as Vermentino, as you know. Roll is a local variety from Provence that we blend with Grenache. So depending on the variety, we can do both.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Another nice question from Mark DeWolf from Canada. Hi, Mark. Nice that you're with us. We have 3 producers of whom are exploring unique varietals, giving the challenges of client changes, not climate, but client changes. Can each name a varietal that isn't well known, but they think will be exciting in the future? Wow, Miguel, you already told us about the grape varietal in Pyrenees. Would that be your choice?
Yes, this one and also a white wine that to me is like the queen, that it will be the queen of the Penedès wine region. It's called Forcada, and it's an ancestral variety that here in the Mediterranean it gives us amazing acidity in tartaric over 8 and quite low alcohol. So it's a great variety. It arrives at the end of October, no? So it's quite amazing. And I can tell you that right now in the Penedès, this is the only variety that I'm planting. It's a great one.
Incredible. End of October ripeness, low alcohol and high acidity.
Yes.
That sounds like a miracle.
It's like it's like a wish list, you know, everything.
Matthieu, you were talking about the Roll, but that's a well-known varietal. Do you have also some secret ones in the background?
We love particularly Counoise variety, especially in Beaucastel. We love this variety. It's probably not popular as Grenache, Syrah, or even Mourvèdre, let's say. But we have quite a lot of Counoise that my grandfather has planted, and that we continue to plant it a little bit everywhere. It's a good complementarity, Counoise. You know, it's a good partner, especially with this global warming that we were talking, which is also less and more, less alcohol. It's always very balanced and bring kind of elegance in the wines, which really looking for in the final blending. So Counoise is definitively a variety that we follow with Mourvèdre for sure, but Counoise, which is less known as Mourvèdre.
Oh, cool. Thank you, Matthieu. Dominic, I remember in Douro Valley, there are so many varietals, even if most people only talk about 5, 6 of them, but I'm sure you have something in your pocket.
We are, at the moment, it is still too soon to come to any clear conclusions, but we have done research in a whole load of these very lesser known varietals, and to understand what their ability to resist the climate change effects will be. But at the moment, that there is still no conclusion. Where we have had a very clear, and my cousin Charles in particular is very, very keen on, is a hybrid variety from France called Alicante Boucher, which has adopted Portugal almost as its native home. In the south of Portugal, in the Alentejo region, it's been very well known for a number of years and has been used for 40, 50 years. It is a great variety that is permitted for the Douro region, and we have been using it more and more. It's a teinturier, so it has very intense color, but the best thing is it has very high fixed acidity. And so it brings us freshness into our wines. And so we have been using that more and more in our blends, just as a complement, but to give it that sort of a bit of a structure of freshness into our wine blends.
Yeah. Oh. So we have deep insights again. More and more questions are coming in. Guys, are you open to spend a few more minutes to answer some of the questions?
Yes, please.
Yes, sure.
That's great to hear, because I think they're really very good questions, and it would be very sad that we would not answer them. Sheila is asking, what are your thoughts on the Commission, the European Commission, considering requiring ingredients on the wine labels? This is quite, yeah, now we have to put, since some years we have to contain sulfates, and let's see what will come the next. What do you think, Matthieu?
I think it's if we like it or if we don't like it, it's something that will come. So we are happy to write what is inside the bottles, which is most of the time, especially for us. I mean, it's very simple. So you know, people today want to know exactly what they will get, and they will want to be secure about what they will get. So it's one more time the security. But at the end, you know, wines, we are very concerned about organic farming. My grandfather was moving all the vineyards in the 60s organic and so on. But, you know, we don't defend absolutely all the organic wines. I mean, we are talking about emotion. We are talking about a great product. And you have fantastic wines which are organic and some other which are not organic, which are fantastic also. And you never have to think, you always have to think, about what you do in your place is most of the time easier to do. I mean, we are lucky enough to live in the south of France, to have Mistral, to have this wind, which is helping us to be organic. Maybe if we were born in Burgundy or Champagne, we will find another way to do wines. You know, you don't have to make choice for having a labels. You don't have to make choice for having good notes. So in this way, we have to pay attention that is not changing the way to make wines, because wines is a product which is part of culture.
Yeah. Maybe one day we have to, or you, Dominic, have to inform the people from which vineyard the grapes have been sourced, of which the spirit has been made, to stop the fermentation of your ports. Let's see.
Wine is wine, and I think it's for enjoyment. And while I understand that we must be careful about people that maybe have allergies, and I think we have to respect that, to go into the detail, I think it is an issue. But I think that, like Matthieu says, I think to a degree, some of it there's a degree of inevitability, but I think that also too much intervention takes away the responsibility of the individual. And I think that the individuals need to assume responsibility for their own actions as well.
Yep, very right. Arjen asked on Facebook, how are the producers going to sell all the unsold wine during this time? And how will they make sure there will be no overproduction in the future? Will the normal way of selling be enough? Miguel, what do you think? Do you see a problem of selling the wine you have?
Oh, you know what is, if you talk about the problem with the coronavirus now, no, and how most of the restaurants around the world they are closed, it is it is a problem for the restaurants. It is a problem also for the wineries that we sell to those restaurants, no. So I guess that in many appellations there are going to be a certain adjustment. Maybe we are going to get a new vintage a bit later on that side. But we'll have to deal with that. You know, I think that there's no other way, because there are so many restaurants closed that there's no other channel really that can absorb that wine.
Yeah. Sometimes we have a small vintage, sometimes we have a shorter sales.
Yeah.
Do you have any other comments, Dominic or Matthieu, or?
I think that for the more commercial, for the everyday drinking wines, where that there is a higher rotation, I think that they may be a bit of a challenge for many of us in the world of the wine. I mean, I don't say any person in particular, but those wines, which are the wines that are sold pretty much within a year or two of production, and there's a rotation of these wines going through, a slowdown in sales will have a bit of an effect, and there might be some storage issues for some companies. For the terroir wines, for the top reserve wines that generally we're speaking about ourselves here, and certainly some of the wines that we've been mentioning, you know, it's that they're wines that are in the market. They need a bit of cellar aging. If they have an extra 6 months of cellar aging, it's not going to make any difference. If anything, it's probably to the contrary. The wines will be a little bit, they'll be a little bit better because they'll have aged a bit longer. I think that there is a clear question that we as businesses are going to have to manage ourselves, because clearly we are all suffering. Our sales have suffered somewhat. And so, you know, we're running a company at the same time. And so there's cash flow. We have responsibility of salaries for our staff, for our suppliers. I mean, there's a whole number of issues, but that is something that everybody in the world is facing at the moment. So I think you can split this into the reserve wines and the cellar wines and the slightly more commercial wines between the two factors. And I think the commercial wines, yes, clearly there is an issue that the industry has to address or to face up to. And then the reserve wines, I see less of an issue, but the fact is that obviously it does affect our business from just a business revenue point of view.
Yeah. Thank you so much. As we're running really fast in time, one last question coming in through Facebook. Does anyone notice a difference with air pollution in the vineyards now that traffic is way much less? And do the vineyards react on this fact already? Matthieu, do you see any reaction there?
Not really, to be honest. I mean, depending where you are, you know, we didn't make all the tests, and not really. Probably we see more animals, like even in the countryside where we are living. You know, we saw all picture or video about animals come back to the cities, but it's even more in the vineyard. They were always there, you know. But we see maybe a little bit more. I mean, it's difficult to answer. I would say no.
Okay. Miguel, Penedès is quite close to Barcelona airport, which is not one of the very smallest. Do you see any differences?
Not really so much. I think that we are more or less 50 kilometers far away. And on the part where we are, the roads are very, very small. There are not big highways or so many cars on that side. So the air here is quite clean always. And when we talk about the Priorat, it's even more remote on that side. So I think pretty much the same here.
Yeah, and as we all know, the grapes of port are sourced in the Douro Valley, and from Porto to Douro Valley, it's a hell of a trip.
I think, Per, you know, just exactly as Matthieu and particularly Miguel said. I mean, it's the vineyards of the Douro Valley are very isolated. It's an area that there is no big cities anywhere within 80, 90 kilometers, 100 kilometers. So there is no noticeable change whatsoever that I'm aware of. And
thank you so much. So we spent 1.5 hours now with a very highly interesting talk. Thank you, all the four of you, dear Euan, Matthieu, Dominic, and Miguel. And dear audience, let me say as last words that please remind next week we will have the next panel sessions, again in the morning and in the evening, European time. This time we will have Jean-Pierre Durand, the Global Marketing and Communication Director of Advini. We will have Martin Cortese, Vice President at Trapiche for UK and EMEA, so Europe, Middle East, whatever. Philippe Crozier, Ambassador of Wines of Argentina. Very welcome to have him with us. And Stéphane Vidal, Vice President, Enology and Strategic Innovation of Vinventions. So it will be also a very, very interesting panel next week. We will have inscription link directly on the website of ASI. Starting from tomorrow, we still have to work a little bit on the text and the pictures, but it will be there tomorrow morning, European time, and we will be happy to see as most of you as possible again. Thank you so much for this great session, and hope to see you live very, very soon again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Per.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Per.
Thank you, Per.
Great pleasure. Thank you all.